It all began at a bank. A simple encounter that seemed like fate. I had no idea that the man I met there would change the way I viewed love and myself. I never imagined it would take me this long to figure out what I truly deserved. I remember the day so clearly. The faint buzz of the bank's air conditioning, the clinking of coins, the gentle shuffle of feet on the tile floor. I was standing in line, mindlessly flipping through my phone when I felt someone looking at me. When I glanced up, his eyes caught mine. Kwame, standing in front of the counter, his hand resting on a pile of paperwork. He smiled, and I couldn't help but smile back. There was something about him, something magnetic. Maybe it was the way his eyes sparkled with curiosity, or the way his smile reached all the way to his eyes. He made his move quickly, as if he already knew what he wanted. "Hey, I'm Kwame," he said, his voice warm and inviting. "I couldn't help but notice you standing there." His words were simple, but there was an easy confidence in the way he spoke that immediately drew me in. "Miriam," I replied, offering him my name without a second thought. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said, a playful glint in his eyes. But I just had to ask, would you be open to grabbing a coffee sometime? Maybe we could see where this goes. I don't know what it was, but something about his tone made me feel like he was someone worth knowing. "Sure," I said, a smile tugging at my lips. "I'd like that." He took my number, his fingers brushing against mine for just a moment longer than necessary. And just like that, I thought maybe, just maybe, I had met someone who could change my life. That evening, he called me, his voice smooth and casual, yet laced with a sincerity that made my heart flutter. "Miriam," he said, "I've been thinking about you all day. I know this might sound forward, but I really want to see what the future holds for us. Do you feel the same way?" It was strange, but I said yes. I said yes to something I didn't even fully understand, swept up in the excitement of it all. There was something about his words, something about the way he spoke to me, as if he already saw me as part of his future. From that day on, things moved quickly. Every evening, without fail, Kwame would show up outside my apartment after work, his car parked right across from my window. We'd sit there for hours, talking about everything and nothing at all, sometimes laughing, other times drifting into comfortable silence. Those moments felt like they were ours alone, a secret world where nothing else mattered. But as time passed, something began to change. The butterflies I'd felt in the beginning started to fade. It was subtle at first, just little things that didn't sit right with me. The way he started asking me to do more, to cook for him, clean for him, do his laundry. And yet, he never offered anything in return. No taxi fare, no flowers, not even a small token of appreciation. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe it's just how he is, I told myself. But as the weeks turned into months, I couldn't ignore the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach. I began to wonder why I was always the one giving. And the more I gave, the more I realized I wasn't getting anything back. Not emotionally, not financially. One evening, after cooking for him yet again, I asked him, "Kwame, could you at least buy me something to eat on your way here? I'm starving." His response stung. "Didn't your mom cook? Why do you like an easy life like this? Eat before I get here." I stared at my phone after he hung up, the weight of his words sinking in. I didn't even know how to respond. I waited for him to call back, but I didn't pick up. I let the phone ring, let it go straight to voicemail. I couldn't bring myself to answer. And when he showed up, angry and confused, I still didn't step outside. The sounds of his car engine idling outside my window felt deafening. The hours dragged on, and when he finally left, I had to make myself believe it was for the best. But deep down, something shifted. I started to realize that I wasn't just upset because of one incident. No, it was everything. The constant giving, the constant waiting, and in return, nothing but silence. Kwame sent me a message later that night, accusing me of being a gold digger. His words felt like a slap to the face. How could he say that after everything I had done for him? How could he call me that when all I had ever wanted was a little care, a little consideration? The message stung more than I wanted to admit, but the truth was it was his behavior, not mine, that had driven me to this point. I had always believed that love meant sacrifice, but what I had learned, what I was finally starting to accept, was that love also meant respect. I haven't seen him since that night. Still he calls. He texts. He sends money, unprompted now. He tells me he's changed. But how can I believe that? How can I trust that this time things will be different? I don't know what to do. I don't know whether to give him another chance or walk away for good. I only know this. I'm tired of wondering whether he'll ever truly care about me the way I deserve. And I'm not sure I'm ready to let myself fall for the same lies again. It wasn't about the grand gestures anymore. Just him coming over to my place every evening, sitting in his car for hours, talking about life, about the future. At first, it felt like we were building something real. But after a while, I began to see the cracks, the things I'd overlooked when I was too busy enjoying the attention he gave me. I should have known. I should have paid more attention to the little things, the subtle signs. But it wasn't until things started getting mundane that I realized this wasn't love. It wasn't the sweet romance I had imagined. It was something else entirely. The first red flag, as it turned out, wasn't just in his actions, but in the way he made me feel. Invisible. I was doing things for him that I shouldn't have been doing at all. Things that weren't part of what we'd agreed upon when we first met. And yet, every time I asked for something in return, it was always an excuse, a reason why he couldn't or wouldn't help. I wasn't asking for much. I wasn't asking for luxury. I was asking for basic things that anyone in a relationship would give willingly. A little money for taxi fare when I had to go somewhere, maybe a meal when I was hungry. But no, Kwame never gave me anything unless it was on his terms. I started to feel like I was just some sort of unpaid assistant. The cleaning, the cooking, the errands. It became routine. And the worst part, he never once thought to offer a thing. It was one evening, just like any other, when the frustration finally boiled over. I had made him dinner after a long day of running around, cleaning his apartment, folding his laundry, restocking his fridge, and by the time I was done, I was exhausted. I didn't want to cook for myself, too. I just wanted a little kindness in return. So I asked him casually, "Kwame, could you buy me something to eat on your way here?" I expected him to say yes, something simple, something that felt like a natural part of what we had. But instead he laughed. That cold, dismissive laugh that I had heard too many times before. "Didn't your mom cook? Why do you like an easy life like this? Eat before I get there." I froze. I hadn't expected that. Not from him. Not from someone who claimed to care about me. His words stung, more than I could admit at that moment. But I told myself it was just a slip-up, that maybe he was tired. Maybe he didn't mean it. When he arrived, I didn't rush to open the door. I couldn't. The hurt was sitting in my chest like a heavy stone. I waited, and then his voice came through the phone, frustrated, almost accusing. "I'm here. Are you coming out or not?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Instead, I sat in silence, staring at the phone, feeling the weight of every word he had said. How had I let it get this far? How had I allowed myself to feel so small in this relationship? I had given him my time, my energy, my kindness, and all he had given me in return was nothing but indifference. After what felt like hours, he called again. And again, I didn't pick up. I left him on read. I couldn't bring myself to face him, not after everything. His insensitivity was too much. It was all too much. Then came the messages. He sent a few apologies, some half-hearted excuses, and finally a barrage of insults. He called me a gold digger. Gold digger. That was the word he chose to describe me. The word that made my blood boil, that made me question everything I had done for him. I never answered those messages. Instead, I went to bed, feeling more alone than I ever had in this relationship. And when he came by the next day, I didn't even step outside. The final straw had been drawn. But what really hurt the most wasn't just his words. It was how he didn't even try to understand. How he thought I was asking for too much when all I wanted was something small. Something that showed he cared. Something that wasn't just about him, but about us. And then, after everything, after I thought I had drawn the line, he started sending me money. Unsolicited. He sent food deliveries, texts asking to spend time together. It felt like a game, a cheap attempt to make up for everything. He sent me GHC 500. GHC 500. The most he had ever given me in all this time. "Don't you see I've changed?" he texted. "Stop punishing me." Stop punishing him? How could I? How could I just forget everything that had happened, as if it was nothing, as if he could just buy his way back into my life with money and food? I wish I could say I didn't care. I wish I could say I was done with him for good. But the truth is, I still love him, and I hate myself for it. How do I make sure he doesn't go back to being the same person? How do I protect myself from giving everything, yet getting nothing in return? I don't know. I really don't. It wasn't just the lack of money anymore. It was everything, every little thing that added up. And there were so many moments when I should have walked away, when I should have recognized the warning signs, but I didn't. I kept doing everything for him. Cooking, cleaning, running errands. And what did he give me in return? A promise of something better, a future where he would change. But promises were like air to him. So easy to make, so hard to keep. I had to beg him for taxi fare. I had to ask him for groceries. Things I shouldn't have had to ask for. Things that a partner in any kind of relationship should give willingly. But no. Kwame would always say the same thing, every single time. I have no money right now. It wasn't just once or twice. It was every single time I asked. And when he did give me anything, it was always the same. 100 sadies. He'd hand it over like it was some kind of fortune, like I should be grateful for this small token that barely covered anything. "Here, take it," he'd say, as though I should feel lucky. "Don't spend it all in one place." I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand how someone who had everything, someone who had the time to sit in his car for hours, someone who had all the energy in the world to talk about the future, couldn't spare a little for the woman he supposedly loved. And then there were the promises. Oh, the promises. He'd say he'd send me money via mobile payment, and I'd wait. And wait. And when I'd ask him again, when I'd remind him, he'd say, "Oh, I forgot." Or worse, he'd just leave me on read. A simple transaction was too much for him. It wasn't the money that bothered me the most. It was the neglect. The way he dismissed me, like I wasn't even worth a second thought. The emotional toll was more than I could bear. But I kept telling myself he would change. I loved him, and I believed in the potential of us. I kept waiting, hoping he would come around, that he would realize how much I was sacrificing. But deep down, I knew better. I knew I was just fooling myself. I started distancing myself, not just physically, but emotionally. I stopped calling him as much, stopped checking in like I used to. I stopped making the effort to be the woman he had fallen in love with. And every time I did, I saw a glimpse of the person I used to be, the strong, independent woman who had dreams and ambitions that weren't tied to him. But he didn't notice. He never noticed. He kept texting, calling like nothing had changed. And for a moment, I almost let myself believe that maybe it was okay. Maybe I could continue being the person who did everything and asked for nothing in return. But I couldn't. One day, after I had asked him again for something simple, something that should have been a non-issue, he finally snapped. "What is it with you, Miriam?" he said, his voice dripping with frustration. "You always want something from me. You want me to take care of you, like you're some kind of princess. I'm not your ATM." His words hit me harder than anything else he had ever said. They sliced through the last bit of hope I had left for us. And the worst part, he didn't even see it. He didn't even see how he was the one who had taken and taken without ever giving back. I didn't respond right away. I let the silence stretch between us. He called me a gold digger. Gold digger. The word stung, and part of me wanted to defend myself, wanted to explain how this wasn't about money. But the other part of me, the part that had been holding on, hoping he would change, finally broke free. I didn't care anymore. I didn't pick up his calls when he called about the food. I didn't respond to his texts, his desperate attempts to fix things with nothing more than shallow words. I just sat there in my quiet apartment, letting him stew in his own frustration. And for the first time in so long, I felt a sense of freedom. I wasn't going to be used anymore. I wasn't going to wait for him to change. If he couldn't see my worth, then I was done. I was done. But even as I sat there, feeling like I had made the right decision, a part of me, a small, vulnerable part, still missed him, still longed for the man he had once been before everything fell apart. Would I regret it? Would I look back and wish I had just been patient one more time? I didn't know. But for now, I knew I had to do this for me. I had to stop waiting for him to be someone he wasn't. The phone rang again. And this time I didn't look away. I just stared at it, knowing that picking up would only drag me back into the same cycle I had been trapped in for months. Should I answer? Should I hear him out? I couldn't decide. Yesterday, I got a message from Kwame that I never expected. It was a simple text, but the amount of money attached to it was anything but simple. 500 Sadies. Don't you see I've changed? Stop punishing me. I stared at the message for longer than I should have. 500 Sadies. It was the most he had ever sent. My heart beat faster. My mind swirled with thoughts, doubt, hope, resentment. How could I not feel something? After all this time, after everything he had put me through, could I really believe him now? I wanted to. I wanted so badly to believe that this time, maybe this time, he had finally come to his senses. That maybe this wasn't some temporary fix, some desperate attempt to keep me around. But how could I trust him? How could I trust anything he said after everything that had happened? The money wasn't the issue anymore. It was never really about the money, was it? It was about respect, about reciprocity, about love, real love, not the kind where one person gives everything and the other takes without ever truly caring. I sat on my bed, holding my phone, the weight of everything settling in the pit of my stomach. I thought back to all the times I had asked him for just a little help, just a little support. The times he'd ignored my calls, brushed off my needs, made me feel like I was asking for too much. And now, just like that, 500 Sadies. Stop punishing me, he said. I couldn't stop the bitterness from rising in my throat. Was that what he thought this was? Punishment? No, it wasn't punishment. It was self-preservation. It was me finally learning that I wasn't the problem, that I didn't have to keep giving and giving while he took without ever giving anything in return. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm of emotions inside me. I loved him. God, I loved him. But that wasn't enough. It couldn't be. Not when it felt like I was drowning in a relationship that had become more about survival than love. I heard the ping of another message. His name flashed on the screen. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't resist. Please, Miriam. I can't lose you. The words hit me like a slap, but I didn't react. I didn't want to react. My fingers hovered over the screen, torn between responding, explaining, or simply blocking him out of my life. I needed closure. I needed peace. And I wasn't going to find it by chasing after the same promises he had already broken. I stood up, pacing around the room, my mind racing. Was I really ready to walk away? To let go of everything I had hoped for? Every dream I had built around this relationship? Was I ready to give up on the man I thought I could change? I stopped pacing, and I stared at the phone in my hand. Love shouldn't feel like a one-way street, I whispered to myself. I had to choose myself. I had to. And yet, the weight of my decision felt heavier than anything I had ever carried before. I took a deep breath and hit the call button. The phone rang, and with each passing second, my heart beat harder. The ringing felt like an eternity. When he finally picked up, his voice was shaky. Miriam. I closed my eyes, trying to find the words. I can't do this anymore, Kwame. His silence stretched between us. It was the first time in so long that I had been so direct, so final. I'm done. I'm done with waiting for you to change." His voice cracked. "Miriam, please. Please don't do this. I swear I'm trying. I swear." But I wasn't listening anymore. "I need to take care of me now. I'm sorry, Kwame, but I've given you enough chances." I ended the call before he could say anything else. The weight that had been pressing down on me, the tightness in my chest, started to ease just a little, but there was still a lingering ache, a fear that I had just made the wrong decision. I walked over to my window, looking out at the night. The streets were quiet, but my mind was anything but. Had I done the right thing? I couldn't be sure, but I knew one thing. I couldn't keep living in a lie. The phone vibrated again. A text this time. It was him. "I will never forgive you for this. It's been a year since that night. A year since I walked away from Kwame and finally chose myself. The money still comes. Every month, without fail. 500 Sadies here, 200 there. It doesn't matter how much it is now, because I haven't seen him. Haven't heard his voice except for those texts, which I delete before I even read them. Every single one of them. I think about it sometimes. How I used to feel, how deeply I used to care. And I wonder if I was just fooling myself into thinking I could change him, that I could make him see me the way I deserve to be seen. But then I remind myself, no, I didn't deserve to be treated like that. I didn't deserve to feel invisible in a relationship. I've grown so much over this past year. There's a strength inside me now that wasn't there before. It wasn't easy, and there were days when I doubted myself, wondering if I'd made the wrong choice. But those days are fewer now, because I know I made the right decision. I'm proud of the woman I've become. I'm proud that I finally stood up for myself, that I didn't wait for him to change, to suddenly give me everything I had been asking for all along. I didn't need him to complete me. I was already whole. I always had been. I think back on all those nights I spent wondering if I was asking too much, if I was being unreasonable for wanting love that wasn't just words but actions, for wanting respect, for wanting someone who saw me as an equal, not as someone to be used. And I realize I wasn't asking for too much. I wasn't being demanding or entitled. I was asking for basic decency, and I deserved it. I take a deep breath, looking at my reflection in the mirror. The woman I see now is different from the one I was a year ago. She's stronger, more confident. She's learned that her happiness doesn't depend on anyone else, that her worth isn't tied to someone else's approval. I have a life now, one where I'm not constantly fighting to be seen. I've made new friends, started focusing on the things that make me happy. I've even started working on things I'd put off for far too long. My career, my personal growth. If there's one thing I want to leave you with, it's this. You deserve to be loved, truly loved for who you are. Not for what you give, not for how much you sacrifice, but because you're worth it. If you find yourself in a situation like mine, ask yourself, are you giving more than you're receiving? Are you truly happy? If not, it's time to take control of your life. Don't wait for someone to change. Don't wait for them to realize your worth. You're already enough. And I promise you, the moment you choose yourself, everything else will fall into place. The phone buzzes in my pocket again. His name flashes on the screen. I stare at it for a moment, my fingers frozen. For a split second, I almost pick it up. But then I remember. I've already made my choice. And this time I'm not looking back.